Right now, your spine is curved into a shape it was never designed to hold. Your hip flexors are shortened. Your glutes have gone quiet, literally switched off, like a light no one remembered to turn back on. Your blood is pooling in your legs, moving slower than it should. And your brain, the organ that consumes 20% of your daily energy, is running on a fraction of the blood flow it would get if you simply stood up. You feel fine. That's the trap. Nothing hurts yet. Nothing screams. You just feel a little tired, a little foggy, maybe a dull ache low in your back that you've stopped noticing because it's been there so long, it feels like part of you now. And so you keep sitting, through breakfast, through the commute, through 8, 9, 10 hours at a desk, through dinner, through the couch afterward. Some people spend 17 hours a day sitting and never clock it as a health decision at all. Here's the myth you've probably been told, maybe even by a doctor. Sitting is fine as long as you exercise later. Get your 30 minutes in at the gym, go for your evening run, and the hours of stillness before and after simply don't count. Movement in the evening erases stillness in the day. Balance the ledger, and you're safe. That myth is wrong, and the way it's wrong is stranger than you'd think. Researchers now have a name for it, the active couch potato effect. You can run 5 miles every morning and still carry the same metabolic risk markers as someone who never exercises at all, if you spend the other 23 hours of your day barely moving. The workout doesn't cancel the stillness. It sits next to it, on a completely separate ledger your body keeps without asking your permission. Here's what's actually happening, and it has almost nothing to do with calories. When you sit, an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, the molecule responsible for pulling fat out of your bloodstream and burning it for fuel, drops by up to 90% in your leg muscles, not gradually, almost immediately. Your legs they stop asking for fuel. Fat and sugar stay circulating in your blood instead of getting used, and your body, with nowhere else to put them, starts storing them. At the same time, the electrical activity in your leg muscles, the tiny constant firing that happens even when you're just standing, shifting weight, fidgeting, goes flat. Scientists can literally watch it disappear on an EMG within minutes of sitting down. Your muscles go into a kind of dormant sleep. And muscles that go dormant stop pulling glucose out of your blood the way active muscles do, which is part of why prolonged sitting is so tightly linked to insulin resistance, even in people who are otherwise lean and fit. Then there's your blood flow itself. Sitting compresses the veins in the back of your legs, slows circulation, and lets blood pool below the knee. This is a big part of why prolonged sitting is associated with a higher risk of blood clots, the same mechanism behind economy class syndrome on long flights. Your body wasn't built to be folded at a 90-degree angle for 10 hours. It was built to keep blood actively pumping through constant, low-level motion. So here's the full picture. Sitting isn't neutral. It's not simply the absence of exercise. It's an active metabolic state, one that shuts down fat-burning enzymes, silences your muscles, slows your blood, and quietly nudges your whole system toward inflammation and insulin resistance. And large population studies tracking hundreds of thousands of people have found that the health risk from high amounts of sitting time is comparable in scale to the risk from smoking, an association strong enough that researchers started calling prolonged sitting the new smoking. Some studies suggest the increased risk of early death from extended, uninterrupted sitting rivals what you'd see from a pack-a-day habit. Think about that for a second. We regulate where people can smoke. We put warnings on cigarette packs. We tax it, restrict it, run public health campaigns about it. But we've built entire civilizations, schools, offices, cars, movie theaters, around the assumption that sitting for 10+ hours a day is simply what modern life requires. No warning label, no public health campaign. Just a chair, waiting for you, in nearly every room you'll ever walk into. To understand how strange this is, you have to go back, way back. For roughly 300,000 years, the human body evolved almost entirely outside a chair. Hunter-gatherer societies, studied by anthropologists today. Groups like the Hadza of Tanzania don't sit still the way industrialized humans do. They squat, they kneel, they crouch on their heels with their spine in a deep, active fold that keeps muscles engaged even at rest. Researchers who strapped activity monitors on Hadza adults found their total daily sitting time was similar to modern Westerners in raw hours. But the type of sitting was completely different. It was broken up, low-postured, and metabolically active, not the slack, chair-bound stillness most of us live in. Then came the agricultural revolution, roughly 12,000 years ago. Farming introduced repetitive labor, but it was still standing, bending, hauling, walking behind animals, walking to and from fields at dawn and dusk. The workday was long and often brutal, but it was never still. The body stayed a working machine, its muscles firing in the same near-constant, low-intensity pattern they'd fired in for hundreds of thousands of years before. The real break came far more recently than most people realize. The chair, as an object of daily mass use rather than a symbol of royal or religious status, is a surprisingly modern invention. For most of history, chairs were reserved for the powerful, a throne, a judge's bench, a bishop's seat. Ordinary people sat on the ground, on stools, on their heels. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution, factories, then offices, then schools, that chair-sitting became the default posture of an entire population for the majority of its waking hours. And then came the final compounding blow, the screen. Television in the mid-20th century, computers in the late 20th, smartphones in the 21st. Each one added hours of stillness on top of the last, until the average adult in industrialized countries began spending more hours per day sitting than sleeping. In evolutionary terms, this is not a slow drift, it's a cliff edge, 300,000 years of near-constant low-level motion, followed by roughly 200 years, a rounding error in evolutionary time, of near-total stillness. Your genes haven't caught up. They're still running code written for a body that squats by a fire, walks miles to find food, and rarely sits in the modern sense at all. So here's the full picture. Put back together. Your body's metabolic machinery, its fat-burning enzymes, its blood flow, its muscular electrical activity, was calibrated over hundreds of thousands of years for frequent, low-intensity movement, not for one hard workout bookended by 23 hours of stillness. When you sit for 10 hours, you're not resting the machine, you're switching off half of it, and your 1 hour at the gym, as valuable as it is for your heart and your mood, was never designed to compensate for that. The fix, according to the same research, isn't necessarily more exercise, it's less uninterrupted stillness. Standing up for a few minutes every half hour reactivates lipoprotein lipase. It brings the electrical hum back to your leg muscles. It gets blood moving again. Some studies show that simply breaking up sitting time with brief movement, walking to get water, pacing during a phone call, standing while you think, measurably improves blood sugar control, independent of whether you exercise that day at all. The dose that seems to matter most isn't intensity, it's frequency. Think about that. No separate category for it. No 30-minute block set aside while the other 23.5 hours stayed still. Movement wasn't a task on their list. It was the substrate their whole day was built from. You inherited that same body, the same enzymes, the same muscles built to fire every few minutes, not every few days. Somewhere between the throne and the office chair and the smartphone in your hand, stillness became the default and motion became the exception. A total inversion of every condition your biology was built inside. For nearly all of human history, sitting for hours without moving was something you did around a fire, at rest, for a few minutes at a time, before getting up again to walk, gather, carry, build. It was never meant to be the entire shape of a day. Right now, wherever you're sitting, your legs have likely gone quiet again. Your blood has slowed. It's not dramatic. It won't hurt today. But your body has been counting the hours since 300,000 years before the first chair was built, and it hasn't forgotten how it's supposed to move.